Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Aditi Verma, and today we are going to interview Neeta Sanders. Neeta Sanders was born and raised in Hong Kong. She currently resides in Atlanta, Georgia. She has been a spiritual mentor and coach for over 20 years with intuitive abilities. She is a certified nutritional therapist and helps people in alleviating diseases and health issues through healthy cooking classes, correct eating habits, and prescribing supplements. She has conducted numerous workshops where she teaches healthy cooking practices and also workshops on various spiritual and character building topics in Atlanta as well as in Hong Kong. Today, she's joining us from Atlanta and will be sharing tips with us on how to live a healthier lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining us, Neeta. We are so excited to learn about this. I love food and I love eating and might as well eat healthy. So I am excited to learn how can I do that. I am just curious, how did you get into nutrition and nutritional therapy or decided to become a nutritional therapist?
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I appreciate that. So I actually, I started my company called Soulso Educare in 2008, and, our basic premise was to help raise awareness and consciousness for people to live more of a healthy and wholesome life. And, as you said, that I teach a lot of workshops and things, and so one of the things that was that I wanted to raise awareness about food and the food, what's going on in the food industry. So I always thought, I can go ahead and give talks. Unless you become certified, people don't really want to listen to you, right? They don't. So I decided education. But nutrition has always been my passion since I was a teenager. I loved reading articles about health, holistic living. So that's how, I started. And actually my journey into vitamins and things came when my mother-in-law, she was actually told by the doctor that her retina was becoming detached from her eye and that she would soon be blind. So so instead of listening to the doctor, she actually started to take eye vitamins, like lutein, bilberry, vitamin A. And she is 65 today, and she did not have to go through any surgery, and her eyes are perfect. And so after learning about her experience, I started to delve deeper into the magic of vitamins.
Wow, that is awesome. That's an awesome story.
So I started helping friends by prescribing vitamins to them and noticed that, one by one, everybody was getting better. So I realized that I kind of had a knack for this, So then I got a nutrition therapy certification, and then that's where I took it from there. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing to see that natural, inspired by what has happened in front of you, seeing the cure, and being able to help others.
Yes, numerous times. I mean, one time my friend's husband had an enlarged prostate. And just through vitamin therapy, he was actually able to get his prostate into normal condition. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing.
That is.
Our physicality is based on our mentality. So if we are mentally tired, we actually will feel physically drained. So if we take care of our mental condition, then our physical health will actually automatically improve. So the two of them are definitely linked. So there are foods that can actually help cure stress and anxiety, and then there are also foods that can contribute to anxiety. So by choosing the right foods, we can actually drastically cut down on the amount of stress we experience and even improve our mood. And because a lot of the depression comes from, like you said, nutritional deficiencies that drain our energy, brain power. So in order to understand that, we actually have to understand two terms, serotonin and dopamine. You've heard of these two terms, right? So I'll just very quickly explain what those are. So serotonin is basically the happy chemical that can elevate your mood and make you sort of all around happy. So when we have depleted serotonin in our brains, it can cause depression. And then there's dopamine, which is a reward chemical that makes you feel good and accomplished for achieving a desired task. So if you take, for example, cashew nuts, okay? The 2 handfuls of cashew nuts provide the equivalent mood-boosting effects as a therapeutic dose of Prozac, believe it or not. Because cashew nuts, they're actually one of the highest natural sources of tryptophan, which is an amino acid. And then our body actually uses tryptophan to make serotonin, which is a happy chemical in our brain. So cashew nuts also contain B vitamins, and these are the happy vitamins. So if ever you're feeling depressed, you feel like you're not in a good mood, take B vitamins, and immediately your mood will, improve. So I want to take another popular example of chocolate. Everybody loves chocolate, right? Mm-hmm. The reason for it, I mean, there's not just, we just look at chocolate and we love it, but it's actually, there's a reason. Of course, chocolate, when we eat it, it should be dark chocolate. Mm-hmm. The euphoria you feel when you eat is real. It actually contains a chemical called anandamide. Believe it or not, it's called anandamide. It's a neurotransmitter. Yeah. It's produced in the brain, which temporarily blocks feelings of pain and depression. And then it triggers the feel-good hormone of serotonin, and it leads to the release of endorphins, the same ones you get when you exercise. So it also contains magnesium, which helps to improve our mood. So this is why most women, when they crave chocolate, when they're, when they're having their period and stuff, because their magnesium levels actually drop. So when they eat chocolate, that actually helps them. So basically, for good mental health, we should eat foods high in magnesium, B vitamins, zinc, and antioxidants. And the bad foods that we should avoid, so that the foods that actually don't make us feel good, they make us feel depressed, are donuts, cookies, other high sugar treats, processed foods, oily foods, too much caffeine, and too much alcohol. All these things will actually give us bad mental health, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Yeah. That is very interesting, and it actually is backed up by science. So this is,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, very much believable also, because it does make
a very, very short high, and then you get the low right after that. Very quickly you come down, crash. So that's why it's called a sugar crash, right? So definitely hurts. And so you see more and more children, they're hyperactive and all because they're having, all this pesticides and colors and all the in the processed food. So it's the sugar. Will make you feel fuller and also stay with you and give you energy. So carbs are needed. They do give energy, but they a lot of, especially unless they're like complex carbs like grains and things. But if you're having like white bread or cake or muffins or things like that, then those things will actually make you feel, and they'll actually make you feel more hungry as well quickly. So you'll realize if you have a very processed breakfast, you will feel hungry within a few hours. Whereas if you have more of a breakfast that's dense in grains and fiber, then you will actually stay fuller longer too.
So that's talking about breakfast. I have 2 little kids, and I'm always trying to find healthy ways to feed them so they have a lot of energy, they grow well, they get good nutrients. And, one of the things that I've learned, and, it's becoming common in today's world, is GMOs, buy something that's not genetically modified and buy organic. Can you talk a little bit about what are GMOs and what is organic and, why is that important?
Absolutely. So GMOs, for those who are not aware, most people are aware what GMO stands for, is genetically modified organisms. So what happens is genes are taken from one species, like bacteria or viruses, and forced into the DNA of another species. So in the U.S., all non-organically grown soybeans, corn, cottonseed, sugar beets, and canola are all genetically modified. So the very process of creating a GMO actually results in massive collateral damage in the plant, which can increase toxins, allergens, carcinogens, and anti-nutrients. So there was a study actually conducted on rats that showed that the gene inserted into the GM soy was transferred into the DNA of the bacteria living inside the intestines of the rats. And it continued to function. This means that long after we stop eating GMOs, we still may have potentially harmful GM proteins produced continuously inside of us. So to put it more plainly, so if you eat a non-organic corn chip produced from GMO corn, it might transform our intestinal bacteria into a living pesticide factory, possibly for the rest of our lives. So it's very dangerous. And then on top of it, the rats fed with the GMO feed, they developed potentially precancerous cell growth in their digestive tract. They had smaller brains, livers, and testicles. And they also had partial atrophy of their liver and damaged immune system. So it's important that we buy things that are organic.
Yeah, that's huge, because I mean, in today's world where, you're constantly telling a child to learn more, and, you want them to be smarter, and, in the education system also they are learning, and there's so much more pressure in our children. We want them to have a healthy, when you say about smaller brain, I'm thinking that we definitely don't want that, because they need their brain to be strong and big, as to absorb everything that they are learning and going through in today's world.
Absolutely. Now, when we buy items, they should be, of course, organic, but they should also be clearly marked with a logo that says non-GMO verified. There's a specific logo. If you Google it, you'll see a non-GMO verified. And if that product has that logo on it, you know for sure that it has no genetically modified ingredients in it. So there was actually, there's another reason to eat organic. There was actually in the first State of Science review, it was a report called Minimizing Pesticide Dietary Exposure Through the Consumption of Organic Food. And the findings showed that in the U.S. alone, more than 1 billion pounds of pesticides are used daily in the food we eat and the environment. Children, especially unborn fetuses and babies, they are especially vulnerable to exposure to pesticides. So if we were to convert 10,000 medium-sized farms to organic production, it would reduce carbon dioxide, which accounts for 80% of global warming. So this is as much as taking 1,174,000 cars off the road. So every time you buy organic, you're not only helping yourself and your family, but you're also helping to save our earth. And
wow, that is amazing.
There's one more thing. There was a Harvard study done which linked pesticide exposure to 70% increase in Parkinson's disease, and this study was released in the Annals of Neurology in 2006. So there are all these studies out there that have proven that non-organic food is definitely detrimental to our health.
That's amazing. I mean, definitely raising a lot of this awareness. I know there are many organizations doing that outside, but still a lot of people are not able to understand the importance of non-GMO and organic. And you have basically simplified how important it is, and to do non-GMO and organic, because it can affect, just knowing that not only you're helping yourself and your family, but also helping the environment and others.
Already there, in Europe, people are very aware of this.
That one of the things that our listeners could do, because in America there is an act out there, Deny Americans Right to Know, and the people who are trying to raise awareness about GMO, they are actually urging people to call their senators and ask them to vote no for that act. Vote no on the act is called S.2609. So, I think I'm going to do that today. But something that I think that I'm going to take and try to raise awareness among my friends and family also.
But it all starts with us. So if we all just make that first, is to change our habits and our family's habits, and then the rest it'll all happen, So.
Right, that's true. So, Neeta, can you talk about some of the food items that affect people negatively and, emotionally and physically, as well as, what can they do? I'm sorry, I'm going to do this question again. So, Neeta, can you please talk about some of the food items that affect people negatively, both at the emotional level and, physically, and what can they do instead?
So one of the things that a lot of people are affected by is wheat, right? So there's a lot of people say they're allergic to wheat and gluten intolerance and things like that. So the reason for this is because, well, first of all, the earliest wheats in pre-biblical times only had 11 chromosomes, okay? The crops we grow today have 42 chromosomes. That is an awful lot of extra genetic material that was added mainly in the 1950s onwards and from the chemical and radiation manipulation. So because there was a worldwide pressure from governments to increase yields rapidly after World War II. So every change brought in new problems that needed new solutions, and so we had a very high yielding chemical dependence on wheat crops today, right? And the density of nutrition decreased, and the burden of toxic chemicals increased within the grains. So then if you consider further the processing of wheat and manufacturing processes, then it all changes again beyond recognition from those ancient wild crops that were grown by our ancestors. So that's why the wheat that we eat in America is it's hybridized, and it's very processed. And so a lot of that is causing problems in people. So what people can do is they can buy Italian flour. So the Italian wheat is still the original wheat crop. Plus, there's one more thing that they do in America, is that after they harvest the wheat, they douse the entire crop with glyphosate. This is a dangerous herbicide, Roundup. Everyone's heard of Roundup.
Yes, I've heard of Roundup. So even my neighbor might have Roundup in his house.
Exactly. Now, this kills the wheat plant, allowing an earlier, easier, and bigger harvest. So the farmers are doing this. And then glyphosate, again, it comes with its own problems. It causes problems like neurological disorders, autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, chronic depression. All these are on the rise. Gastrointestinal diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic diarrhea, Crohn's disease, obesity, allergies, cardiovascular disease, cancer, multiple sclerosis, hormonal and gender issues, including infertility. So all these things are caused by glyphosate. If you go online and you search for a scientific document on the dangers of glyphosate, you will find many scientific journals. There was one very big study done in Singapore, actually, where they proved all these things that were caused by glyphosate. So what we could do, instead of eating the wheat here, we could buy the wheat that is a product of Italy. And this is available. You can buy it online. You can buy it on Amazon. I buy mine at Whole Foods. At Whole Foods, they sell it by, you could sell it by the case. And you make your own bread, basically, So there's a brand called Anna Napolitana, which is a Italian flour, and then there's einkorn by Jovial. Einkorn wheat is the original wheat. So all these, you can make your own bread and just make your own things and try not to consume the American wheat, so you can stay away from all problems that they're causing.
That's great to know, because I do get einkorn wheat, and now it's good to know that I can also go to Italian flour. That
is Italian. It's actually Jovial brand is actually a product of Italy.
Is it? Okay. That I was not aware of. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So.
I'd like to give my own personal story, actually, for which always makes it effective. So I have two stories. There was one, a friend of mine. Her name is Kalasu. She lives in Hawaii, and she actually was told, by the doctor that she had a gluten intolerance, right? So when she went to Italy, she went for a visit, and she just couldn't resist the pizzas and the pastas and all. So she's like, you know what? I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to eat everything, okay? So she ate everything, and she had no problem. She had no sensitivity at all,
Wow.
And so that was her story. So she told me this. So when I heard this, I said, let me put it to the test personally. So I came back to Atlanta. And I decided, okay, I'm going to buy this Italian flour, and I'm going to put it to the test. And I made my own bread. And generally, for me, my intolerance to wheat is as soon as I eat it, I blow it out. My stomach will blow it out. I get a very serious itch. My scalp starts itching. And so I put it to the test, and nothing. No symptoms from the Italian wheat. So I can tell you, I can vouch my own experience that it really has, I can eat it with no problem at all.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know. I mean, my wheat. When I was pregnant with my second daughter, during my pregnancy, I kept throwing up, and I did not want to take medicine because I was aware of how natural food could also help you cure some of the symptoms. And I started eliminating all the food, and there was very limited food that I could eat. But one of the things I noticed that I eliminated was wheat, in addition to dairy and soy and corn. But I was amazed to see that, just by eliminating these things, my allergy symptoms went away.
Exactly.
And I get seasonal allergies, and they're so bad, and I was so scared because when you're pregnant, I've heard that they become worse. But for me, I didn't have any allergies, and I was so shocked. That's when I started believing. It was really like I have to change my diet because I don't need to take medication. I can just change my diet, and I will have no allergies.
Yeah. So I'd encourage the listeners to just put it to the test. Try it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you're, celiac or something, then you seriously have a problem. But a lot of the people that have gluten insensitivity it's not celiac. It's just intolerance to glyphosate or to the American wheat.
So, in addition to wheat, how about dairy?
Yeah,
because a lot of people have that too, intolerance to dairy. Or
let's talk about dairy. Well, first of all, first let's talk about non-organic milk. So that's the main problem right there.
Okay.
Is that non-organic milk, it may actually contain, mad cow disease, which is bovine spongiform, BSC it's called. And mad cow disease is basically the mutant proteins called prions. These prions are virtually indestructible, okay? They can withstand temperatures of 1100 Fahrenheit. And they basically multiply and destroy brain tissue by filling it with spongy holes. Thus, the person with mad cow disease loses its nervous system. And, so this is, actually mad cow disease is similar to a disease called Kuru, which was in Papua New Guinea, which was amongst the cannibals there. And this disease was caused basically by humans eating human brain and spinal tissue. And so mad cow is very similar to that. And the reason why is because they're actually feeding, modern slaughterhouses are routinely allowing banned material, spinal tissue, into the animal feed. Okay, so the calves are being fed blood, basically.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, they're basically fed a mixture of liquid food containing grains, blood, and the byproducts of the beef industry. Including in that is feces of pigs and chickens. So when you're drinking, non-organic milk, this is what you're getting. These are the
I'm sorry.
farm practices, okay? Plus, they also put antibiotics, steroids, growth hormones, which are fed to these animals in excess of the acceptable amounts. And then you have to keep in mind that these bacteria are mutating on a regular basis, so the antibiotics have to be changed constantly. This makes them stronger and stronger, and then new viruses like the swine flu, stuff like that, will spring up. Okay, so this is with the non-organic. Now, with the organic milk, in general, if you can have the non-homogenized milk, or like raw milk even, you will generally not get the allergies that come with regular milk, because what happens is when they when they pasteurize the milk, then the lactose is kind of it messes with the lactose, and then people get lactose intolerance, right? So that's why it's if people are consuming milk, the best thing is consume organic milk, and even better, consume the milk that's non-homogenized. And then even better would be consume raw milk, which you can bring home and you can boil if you feel so inclined.
Right. So the raw milk is also called pet milk, and it probably
okay. Legally they're not allowed to sell it, so they sell it as pet milk.
Okay.
But farms you can inquire into farms that will be in your area that can actually deliver that kind of milk to you.
Okay. So how do you compare this milk to other alternatives like, almond milk or, the nut milk that they are making?
Okay. So my own personal experience with children, at least, is I feel like children do need the dairy because they're growing. And my own personal experience was we were actually vegan for a few years, and so was our son. We kept our son vegan as well when he was a little younger. And what happened was he wasn't growing tall. He was one of the shortest children in his class. And then so we decided, we're just going to let him drink milk, organic milk, of course. And then as soon as we gave him organic milk, within a month he grew. So this is just my own personal experience. So I encourage at least children to have dairy, at least to have milk. Now, adults don't need dairy as much because they're fully grown. So a good alternative is almond milk is a good alternative, but a lot of the almond milk is got a lot of sugar in it, so you have to be careful that it doesn't have sugar added to it. And if it's unsweetened, then also there's the thing with almonds is they have to be soaked in order for our bodies to soaked and the skin's removed in order for our bodies to be able to absorb the nutrients from the almonds. So I don't know how they process almond milk, whether they do that practice of soaking the almonds and removing these skins and, all that. So if you can make your own almond milk, then if you can use that practice to do it, that would be good. Another good alternative is coconut milk. Coconut is, is a very, very healthy thing to have. It's got a lot of vitamins and minerals, and so coconut is another option. Again, make sure it's not got a lot of sugar in it, And I wouldn't encourage people to have soy, and I can talk about soy.
Yeah. That's the next thing I was thinking. Actually, that was the next thing in my mind.
I don't encourage people to do too much soy, and I'll go into that in detail. So those are the alternatives to milk. But for children, again, I do not encourage my clients to put their children on a non dairy diet.
Okay. So that's very good to know. Understand the difference on how it may affect growth for your child versus how it may be okay for the adults.
Right. So if you want, I can go into soy now.
Yes.
Why it's not good. And even that's why I do not encourage people to eat soy. And the only kind of soy that I would say is okay to eat is fermented. But because for me personally, when I eat any kind of soy product, my hair actually falls. So
wow.
So soy is, let me first go into details. Okay, so soy is very high in phytoestrogens, okay? It's higher than any other food source. The phytoestrogens in soy is higher than any other food source. And phytoestrogens are basically plant-based estrogens that mimic the estrogen in our body. Now, this is especially dangerous for infants and children. So an infant taking like a recommended amount of soy formula is consuming a hormone load equivalent of 4 birth control pills a day. So it's any wonder that we've had a dramatic increase in early puberty with young girls starting their periods as young as 6 and 7, believe it or not. So
that's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy, but this is happening. So, and another thing is soy destroys our thyroid. Okay, so many foods are glycogenic. Okay, they're thyroid suppressing basically, but soy is the king of them all. So goitrogens, I always have trouble with this word. Goitrogens work by preventing your thyroid from getting the necessary amount of iodine. So if your thyroid fails, what happens? You gain weight, you have a hard time regulating your moods, you get cold very easily, you're more easily fatigued, you have an inability to concentrate and remember details, and a lot of women go through this. So soy contains another thing called phytates, they're basically enzyme inhibitors that block mineral absorption in human digestive tract. So soy must be fermented in order for our bodies to digest it. That means if you eat soy at all, you should stick to like fermented soy products like miso, tempeh, natto, or organic fermented soy sauce, tamari or shoyu. But remember, it has to be organic soy sauce, not the kinds that you get in stores, which, if you go to like Panda Express and they have a soy sauce, that's not even soy sauce. That's caramel color plus salt. It's not even soy sauce. So you have to be careful what kind of soy sauce you're even eating. And another thing with soy is it is rich in trypsin inhibitors. So trypsin is a digestive enzyme we need to properly digest protein. So without enough trypsin, we experience digestive problems and pancreatic problems. And so now I want to talk a little bit about, soy burgers and soy meats. Okay, so a lot of people like that, and that's made from what you call textured soy protein, isolated soy protein. So the soybean, was a very modest and it was a very unpopular crop until food manufacturers decided to create cheap vegetable oils. They convinced the government to start subsidizing it. So soy was then turned into oil, and the industry was left with a waste product, okay, an industrial waste product. And so somebody had a great idea. So let's take this industrial waste product full of toxins and carcinogens, which was isolated soy protein, and let's turn it into food that people will eat. So isolated soy protein, which is in veggie burgers, veggie meats, health food bars, soy ice cream, soy milk, etc., it's actually an industrial waste product. So instead of like soy milk, like I said, coconut milk is so much better. Coconut milk actually is full of the best kinds of saturated fats, medium chain triglycerides, which actually help you speed your metabolism. So, most people used to say, coconut is very fattening. It's far from true, actually.
That I will agree with you because I was not doing coconut oil with my son when I was pregnant with him because I was worried about like gaining weight and not being able to lose it. But slowly I transitioned, and with my daughter, even throughout the pregnancy and after pregnancy, I did not do much dairy. I was doing coconut milk and all those, high and healthy fats, and I have lost the weight just as easily, and it has not affected that part. It hasn't, and I feel much more healthier and, stronger.
And coconut is really good for the brain as well. So I'd love to share this with you guys. There was this one woman I met, and she actually had her hands were shaking. She was an elderly woman, and she was starting to have some signs of maybe Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or something. Her hands were shaking. So she decided to go and drink coconut, the fresh coconut, the coconut water. And she drank that for like 2 or 3 months, and the shake stopped completely.
Oh, wow.
So coconut is really good for our brain. It builds the brain. It prevents Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. In fact, there was a doctor, I wish I remembered her name, but she wrote a book, and she actually reversed her husband's Alzheimer's just through coconut.
Oh my gosh, that is.
She put coconut, one coconut, not, and the ones in India are pretty large. So those Thai coconuts is small enough to have one a day. The Indian ones are pretty large. So if you want to do maybe half a coconut, a day.
Oh, okay.
Potassium, yes, it is high in levels, but remember when you get potassium naturally through natural sources like coconut and all, it's not as high as if you were to take a potassium pill or something. It's different. They're always different. There are certain vitamins that shouldn't be taken together, and I couldn't go into the whole list of them because there's a whole bunch. Sure. But definitely, I don't encourage people to take a multivitamin because you need different vitamins and minerals based on what your body needs at that particular time in your life. So you can't just take one multivitamin and say, oh, I'm done with it. I've taken care of all my problems. So I actually recommend a good book. It's called The Encyclopedia of Natural Medicine. It's by Michael Murray and Joseph Pizzorno. It's like my vitamin Bible, so to speak. So what happens is in that book they talk about different ailments and illnesses that you may have, and based on that you take the vitamins that they tell you, daily. And vitamins should be taken based on your age, your gender, your level of health. So it's really difficult to tell you, one fit for all kind of, regime for everybody. That's why, again, that's another reason why multivitamins don't work. I would say if you were to definitely go on a vitamin routine and if you just wanted to stay healthy, these are the vitamins I would recommend to take. B vitamins for sure. Everybody needs Bs because Bs are good for your health, skin, for your hair, for your general well-being, your mood and everything. So B vitamins are definitely a plus. Another thing everybody should be taking is broken cell chlorella. Chlorella is basically an algae that everybody should be taking because there's a lot of things in the environment right now, the pollution, the radiation and all, and chlorella actually battles that. Same goes with spirulina. It's another algae, very important to take every day. Then there's another thing called astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is something that is good for your eyes, is good for, keeping energy. And zinc is another one that everybody should take. Kelp is a seaweed, which is, helps with getting our thyroid in order. And probiotics, very important. Probiotics, everybody should be taking. These are the good bacteria that we need to feed ourselves, because sometimes when we eat food and we eat all kinds of processed stuff, or we go out to eat and we end up introducing a lot of what we call bad renters. They come and live in our body. So we need the good renters, the probiotics, who kind of help fight that. So these are the vitamins I say to eat, to take on a daily basis. But other than that, if you do have any kind of ailment, then specific for that ailment, you would take the vitamins needed.
That's great to know. I think we have so much wonderful information for our listeners today.
There was one more thing I want to mention very quickly about.
Sure.
So corn in itself is not bad. A lot of people have given corn a bad rap, and it's not really bad as long as it's organic. But what is bad with corn is the high fructose corn syrup. So I just wanted to quickly mention, a lot of people now know that high fructose corn syrup is not good for you. Now the food industry has renamed it. They've called it crystalline fructose. So just keep that in mind. Crystalline fructose is actually produced by allowing the fructose to crystallize to form a fructose-enriched corn syrup. So this is nothing more than just corn syrup that has been, again, renamed. And this is in products like vitamin water. So people drink vitamin water thinking it's good for me, right? Vitamin water. But actually it's really bad for you.
Wow.
So regular high fructose contains 55% fructose and 45% glucose, and crystalline fructose, which is what they're putting in vitamin water, is at 99% fructose. So it's actually worse than high fructose corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup causes all kinds of illnesses: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, premature aging, arthritis, and neurological problems.
It's just sad how the food industry tries to trick the customers to get, all the products out.
In the food industry, they will say things to divert people from eating certain things, but actually, corn in itself is not an unhealthy food. If it's organic, it has to be organic, because most of the corn out there is genetically modified. So if you are eating genetically modified, then you will definitely get the problems. But organic corn is not unhealthy, and it's been eaten for years, but it's the high fructose corn syrup, the byproducts that are coming out of corn, that are unhealthy. They also, a lot of this new crystalline fructose also contains heavy metals. So heavy metals like arsenic, lead, chloride, they're causing neurological problems. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people have neurological problems now.
This is great to know, because I love corn, one of the things, and I do get organic corn and cook for my kids. So it's great to have reiterated that, it's not bad for you.
No.
So this is a lot of good information. Thank you so much, Neeta, for your time. And I'm sure we'll be talking and be in touch more, and really appreciate all this information for us and all our listeners.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.